Hello and welcome back. If it's your first time here, my name is Janelle and we do all things curly and then some. And today we are going to talk about protein. Finally! First, before we do that, I want to introduce you to a new family member. Isn't he cute? He has no name yet. Daniel has easily approved 5 names, and I just keep backtracking. So if you have any suggestions, comment them down below. All right, so let's jump into protein. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the basic universal signs that hair needs added protein, and we're gonna talk about some ways that you can determine if those visual signs aren't as obvious to you. And then I'm also going to share some of my favorites for when I need protein. So the first and only really sciencey thing that I'm going to say is that your hair is literally made up of proteins and disulfide bonds. All kinds of things can break down the proteins in your hair. Too much water can break down the protein in your hair. Excess heat, excess manipulation, chemical styling. This may not be the case for everyone. If it's not for you, don't worry about it. But if you have recently colored your hair, or at any point when you have colored your hair, notice that your hair does not have the same curl definition and bounce, you may need a protein treatment. Chemical treatments literally can change the texture of your hair and break down those proteins, and you just need to get them back in there. Another sign that you may need a protein treatment is if you have high porosity hair. If you're not sure how to determine if you have high porosity hair, I will be doing a video on that soon. When I will put a link to it up here and in the description. But in the meantime, high porosity hair, it just means that your hair takes in moisture as fast as it lets it go. And most of the time, if you have high porosity hair, you have color treated hair, you have bleach treated hair, or you just have overall damaged hair. Again, that is not always the case for everyone, but there is some consistency there. So if you have high porosity hair, not only are you likely to need protein, you are more likely to need it more often. Another way to determine is to look at your own hair. And this is to see if your hair is laying more stretched out than normal. Today, I had a really good wash day. My hair is hydrated, it is bouncy, and I've got really good definition, and I've got a normal amount of shrinkage that I should have for my hair. When I need protein, these strands that are all the way up here will sit down like this and have less of the spiral and more of a wave. Another sign is if your hair feels mushy. If you've ever experienced mushy hair, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar with what it feels like, congratulations, because it sucks. It literally feels like you have just been like sitting underwater for days, and it's just sitting on top and inside of your hair. And so it'll feel mushy, but then on top of that, it'll also stretch out, it'll feel limp, and it can potentially even get stringy. So stretched out, limp, stringy, mushy curls. And in my opinion, those are some of the easiest and best ways to determine if you need protein, because you can observe them both visually and physically. Yeah. Also, I just want to know, it's literally the opposite for if you need moisture. If your hair feels tough or hard or crispy or is snapping without stretching, your hair needs moisture. Mushy, stringy, stretched out, and limp is protein. Dehydrated, crispy, breaking, moisture. So another thing that I have seen floating around on the internet is that if your hair feels gummy or sticky. Gummy or sticky. I have personally never experienced that, so I don't really know how to relate, but that is something that I've read. If that is something that you have experienced, you need some protein. Another way to test if your hair needs protein or moisture is a strand test. And I really love this because it is a very visual, hands-on. And for me, when I first read about this test, it really gave me the visual of how my hair kind of operates and the function that protein and moisture both have. So all you really have to do with the test, I'm gonna demo in just a second, is take a strand of your hair and wet it with water and gently stretch it and let it go. And if it stretches and goes back to its original shape, you are perfectly balanced. If it stretches a lot more than it should and then snaps, you need protein. If it does not stretch at all and then snaps, you need moisture. Okay, so it's gonna be so hard to see regardless. I can't even tell looking at the camera if you can see that, but here's one strand. Really fine hair, it just is what it is. But here's one strand. There's a little bit of a curl towards the bottom. Dog life. Okay, so we are going to wet it. And I'm actually smoothing the water over the top because I have low porosity hair and the water just likes to bead on top. Okay, so we have our strand. Let me dry my hands off. Okay, now we're going to stretch. Pull on decently. Okay, you can see it stretched out and it is slowly but surely shrinking back into place. My hair is balanced. As I mentioned, if you did the exact same stretch test and it is stretched out and it does not bounce back and or it stretches out and snaps, you need protein. If you gently pull and it snaps and there was no stretching, you need moisture. You're welcome. Okay, I'm gonna get out of your face now. Now we know a few signs of when our hair needs protein. I have sleeping puppies all around me. So now we need to know what we can use when we need protein. So here's where you're going to have to do some homework and some DIY because that really comes down to the individual. So first reason being is there are different porosity types, right? So high porosity tends to need protein on a fairly regular basis. And I'm talking like sometimes every single wash day. Whereas low porosity hair tends to need it very, very minimally. Some low porosity curlies do protein treatments as few as once a month. To get to why I say it really comes down to preference and the individual is because for me, for example, when I need protein, more often than not, I use wash day styling products that contain protein, and that is typically enough for my hair. And I tend to do that every other wash day, which for me tends to be every 5 to 7 days. As other curlies that I know need specific treatments. So that really is going to be up to you. So you're just gonna have to figure out what your hair likes. There are very specific protein treatments out there. The first protein treatment that I have used in my recent history was recommended to me by Curl Pop, and is the Rawkyn Extreme Cat protein treatment. And there are many more out there like it. Real Life Curly Girl, for example, loves Repair Me by Curl Junkie. I have a lot of friends that love the Apophagy protein treatments, etc. So another option is to use a deep conditioner that is infused with protein. And I personally recommend that for anyone that has not experienced working with proteins in their hair before. This is a really great place to start. In my opinion, it is harder to overdo it with these. So I have two all-time favorites that I use on a pretty consistent basis, and that is the Red Rawkyn Moisture Me Clay Hair Mask. It is one of my all-time favorite masks in general. You saw that in my all-time favorite product video. That's up here. Next is the Diva Curl Deep Sea Repair. It is a seaweed strengthening mask. It has bounced my hair right back every single time I have used it. The last option, and my favorite option, personally, and on a day in and day out basis, is using stylers that contain protein, as I've mentioned before. So my all-time favorite product to use when I need protein is actually the Women to Women Naturals Gorgeous Collection Leave-In. It has multiple proteins. It is extremely hydrating, and it is something that I can apply after the fact. So say I just finished my wash day and my hair is dry and my curls are stretched out and they're kind of needing some oomph. I a lot of times will just spritz my ends or whatever areas are stretched out with water, smooth a little bit of this on and scrunch, and most of the time it is enough protein to bounce my hair back. This is also a very amazing option if you have never experimented with protein products or protein treatments and want to start off slow. Highly, highly recommend. Last up is my gels. You all saw these in my favorites video, so I'm just gonna go over them quickly. But first and foremost, and best for protein, is the Bouncecurl Light Cream Gel. It is definitely heavy on the protein, which if you need it is amazing, but it is heavy on the protein. My medium options for protein when I need a little bit, but maybe not a ton, is the Ouidad Climate Control line. I have their original formula that is amazing, that has just a little bit of protein. I just tried their Advanced Climate Control Heat and Humidity gel with the stronger hold, and it works exactly the same way with the stronger hold. And it does have a little bit of protein to get that hair bouncing back up. So the last thing I want to add is that you can overdo protein on your hair. If your hair has too much protein, it is going to get hard and brittle. So you do not want to overdo it, which is why I mentioned the deep conditioners that have added protein and the leave-in as good options to start with if you are experimenting, if you are not sure. So there you have it. There is some introductory information on how to establish if your hair needs protein. I really hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that I answered some of your questions on how to establish if your hair needs protein and what you can do when it does. If you did like this video and found it helpful in any way, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, slam that subscribe button and hit that bell while you're at it to turn on post notifications so that you do not miss a thing. And I will see you next time, probably with a all things porosity video. Bye. Oh wait, PS, links to all of the products mentioned will be in the description. Okay, bye.